Most worshipful Grand Master and brethren all, greetings from here in, today, sunny London. But as you can probably see, I'm locked down in my flat. Indeed, I have not attended a real Masonic meeting in person since March 2020. And after that, I went down with COVID. But here I am today, and on behalf of our Grand Master, His Royal Highness, the Duke of Kent, I offer you sincere congratulations on attaining the bicentenary of your existence. Back on St. John's Day, 1717, 4 lodges in London came together and formed a Grand Lodge. And despite some splits and then reunifications on the way, it continues in unbroken succession. I am currently the Deputy Master of one of the survivors of those lodges, the Royal Somerset House and Inverness Lodge number 4, of which the Master is His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent. And along with lodges number 2 and 12, we sometimes, with a respectful tongue in our cheek, talk about our daughter, Grand Lodge. Within 20 years, this Grand Lodge was communicating with lodges all over England, the Americas, and India. History then records that on the 14th of January, 1771, Joseph Montfort was appointed Provincial Grand Master of North Carolina under the Premier, or thus called Modern's Grand Lodge of England. And from that appointment ultimately sprang one of the American Grand Lodges from which you derive your existence. Others will no doubt continue that distinguished history. Rightly today you celebrate. But as I record this message, we are preparing virtually to attend the funeral of our late brother, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. The court, this Grand Lodge, our country, and indeed many people throughout the world mourn his loss, but also celebrate his legacy. For 68 years, Brother Edinburgh, as he was known in Lodge, paid his dues and answered the summonses of Navy Lodge number 2612, to which also had belonged our Kings George VI, Edward VIII, and Edward VII. He was known, above all, for being interested in people and providing opportunities for them to improve their confidence and their self-confidence and their lives, but above all, their desire to help others. Truly, he lived respected and died regretted, and leaves a legacy to which we all look up and will look up in the future. Most worshipful Grand Master and brethren, enjoy your day and your next 100 years of Freemasonry.
Greetings to my brothers in Missouri. My name is David Wicker, and I am the Grand Master of Masons in North Carolina. On behalf of the 35,000 Masons in North Carolina, I bring you our fraternal greetings and extend to each of you our congratulations on the 200th anniversary of the founding of the Grand Lodge of Missouri. As a part of this celebration, may I offer a very brief history of the beginnings in Freemasonry in North Carolina. I do this because the history of Freemasonry in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Missouri are intertwined. You see, the Grand Lodge of Tennessee was formed out of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, and the Grand Lodge of Missouri was thereafter formed out of the Grand Lodge in Tennessee. In essence, our history is also your history. though most likely beginning a generation earlier. By 1754, Freemasons were working out of St. John's Lodge at Wilmington, North Carolina. At the same time, they petitioned the premier Grand Lodge of England for a charter. That charter was received in 1755. Around that time, a lodge also called St. John's Lodge was meeting in New Bern, North Carolina. By the 1760s, Royal White Hart Lodge was founded in the northeastern part of the state at Halifax along the Roanoke River. The lodge at Halifax attracted the attention of a merchant, Joseph Montfort. A native of Virginia, Montfort's interest in Freemasonry drew him to the formal lodges at Wilmington and New Bern. In the late 1760s, Montfort traveled to England to apply to the Grand Lodge of England for a charter to formalize Freemasonry in Halifax. While in England, Montfort met with the several officers of the Grand Lodge of England and returned to North Carolina with a commission to preside as Provincial Grand Master of and for America. In addition to the original commission granted to Joseph Montfort, within our Grand Lodge offices, we also have displayed a mural by Alan Cox, the same murals as are in the George Washington National Masonic Memorial, also painted by Alan Cox, as well as the original master's chair used by Joseph Montfort when he presided over the lodge in Halifax. Following Montfort's death in 1776 and with the turmoil of the Revolutionary War, formal Freemasonry in North Carolina greatly diminished. As evidence from our preserved minutes, only Unanimity Lodge in Edenton is known to have continued working. After the Revolution, additional lodges began meeting, and by 1786, a call went out from Union Lodge at Fayetteville to convene a convention to discuss the formation of a new Grand Lodge to fill the vacuum left after the death of Joseph Montfort. This group met throughout 1787 and formalized the creation of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of North Carolina on December 12, 1787. This was some 2 years before North Carolina ratified the United States Constitution and statehood. As the new United States formalized its structure, North Carolina was asked to cede its territory west of the Blue Ridge Mountains to the federal government. While the state of North Carolina ceded its western territory in 1792, the land from which Tennessee was created in 1794, the Grand Lodge of North Carolina did not relinquish its territorial sovereignty. Instead, in 1803, we amended our name to be the Grand Lodge of North Carolina and Tennessee. We operated in that manner until 1813. From our records, Freemasonry began in what is now Tennessee in 1789, when St. Tammany Lodge No. 1, later Harmony Lodge No. 1, was organized in Nashville under dispensation from the Grand Lodge of North Carolina. As time progressed, the lodges of Tennessee grew in number and strength. However, it was difficult for the representatives of the various Tennessee lodges to send a delegation to the annual communication in North Carolina. The lodges in Tennessee began the discussion of the creation of their own Grand Lodge. Past Grand Secretary and then Grand Master Robert Williams decided that the Masons of Tennessee should see to their own affairs. After much correspondence, he drafted a resolution stating that if the Masons of Tennessee would form a Grand Lodge under the same structure and basis as the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, then the Grand Lodge of North Carolina would support their convention to form a new Grand Lodge at Knoxville. The proposal was quickly debated, the resolution adopted, and on December 27, 1813, the Grand Lodge of Tennessee was established and recognized by the Grand Lodge of North Carolina. It was from the Grand Lodge of Tennessee, by way of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, that the Grand Lodge of Missouri was later established in 1821. Sharing this common history with our brothers in Missouri makes your bicentennial special to us. Today, you celebrate this milestone. Tomorrow, you lay the foundation for the next 200 years. Go therefore, my brothers, and may the blessings of God attend you.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Mixon. I am Grand Master of Masons in Tennessee. And today I want to bring you a brief history of the Grand Lodge of Tennessee and how it received its charter. The Grand Lodge of Tennessee, officially the Grand Lodge of Ancient and Honorable Fraternity of Free and Accepted Masons of the state of Tennessee, is the main governing body of Freemasonry within Tennessee. The Grand Lodge was established in Knoxville, Tennessee on December 27, 1813, by 9 Masonic bodies operating in the state at that time. Currently, the Grand Lodge of Tennessee has over 28,000 Master Masons on roll. Freemasonry in Tennessee began in 1789 when St. Tammany Lodge No. 1 was organized in Nashville under dispensation from the Grand Lodge in North Carolina. St. Tammany Lodge received its full charter from the Grand Lodge of North Carolina in January 1796. And later changed its name to Harmony Lodge No. 1 in November of 1800. Unfortunately, Harmony Lodge No. 1 was dissolved due to inactivity on December 9, 1808. As part of regularity, lodges must receive a dispensation from a duly recognized Grand Lodge to begin work and then receive a charter from that Grand Lodge to be a fully established lodge. The original lodges in Tennessee were chartered by the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, which from 1803 to 1813 used the name the Grand Lodge of North Carolina and Tennessee, and the Grand Lodge of North Carolina established 9 lodges in Tennessee before the Grand Lodge of Tennessee was formed. The second lodge was Tennessee Lodge No. 2 in Knoxville, Tennessee, which received its dispensation from the Grand Lodge of North Carolina on January 15, 1800, and its charter on November 30, 1800. With John Sevier as his first worshipful master. Greenville Lodge No. 3 in Greenville, Tennessee, was granted dispensation on September 5, 1801, and chartered on December 11, 1801. Newport Lodge No. 4 in Newport, Tennessee, was granted dispensation in 1805, and chartered on December 5, 1806. Overton Lodge in Rogers, Tennessee, was granted dispensation in 1806 and chartered on November 21st, 1807. Hiram Lodge No. 7 in Franklin, Tennessee, was granted dispensation in 1808 and chartered on December 11, 1809. Cumberland Lodge No. 8 in Nashville, Tennessee, was granted dispensation on June 24, 1812, and was chartered on February 8, 1814. Western Star Lodge No. 9 in Port Royal, Tennessee, was granted dispensation on May 1, 1812, and chartered by the Grand Lodge of North Carolina on February 12, 1813. As of today, 6 of these lodges are still active lodges. A convention was held in Knoxville with representation from the lodges operating in Tennessee, and on December 2, 1811, the convention adopted a resolution to form a Grand Lodge within Tennessee, and petitioned the Grand Lodge of North Carolina and Tennessee to release its jurisdiction over the state of Tennessee. On December 5, 1812, the Grand Lodge of North Carolina and Tennessee adopted a resolution approving of the petition, and on September 30, 1813, the Grand Lodge of North Carolina and Tennessee released its jurisdiction over the Tennessee lodges so they may establish the Grand Lodge of Tennessee. A grand convention was held in Knoxville, Tennessee on December 27, 1813, to establish the Grand Lodge of Tennessee and to elect its first officer. Thomas Claiborne, an attorney and a member of the General Grand Assembly of Tennessee from Davidson County, was unanimously elected Grand Master. He appointed George Wilson, an attorney and member of the General Assembly from Knox County, as Deputy Grand Master, John Hall as Grand Senior Warden, Abraham Schaefer as Grand Junior Warden, Thomas McQuarrie as Grand Treasurer, and Edward Scott as Grand Secretary. Later, after the Grand Lodge of Tennessee was formed, we chartered several lodges in the state of Missouri. Missouri Lodge No. 12 in 1816, St. Charles Lodge No. 28 in 1819, and Jakin Lodge No. 25 in 1819. In the records of the Grand Lodge from 1814 to 1822, the first meeting of the Grand Lodge shows 36 masters of Cumberland Lodge were admitted into the Grand Lodge, but only 5 had actually presided over the lodges. Apparently, these brothers had only been nominal past masters. Prominent members of Tennessee who have been Grand Masters were Andrew Jackson, Andrew Johnson, James Polk, who were the 7th, 11th, and 17th President of the United States. Roy Acuff was also a Mason here in Tennessee, and 28 governors of the state of Tennessee have been members of the Grand Lodge of Tennessee. My brother, we'd like to congratulate the Grand Lodge of Missouri on their bicentennial celebration and the continued success of Masonry throughout the state. My brothers, may brotherly love, relief, and truth prevail, for united we must be for a ray of hope. Good day, and thank you.
As a past Grand Master of the great state of Missouri, I'm very much interested in the Masonic Service Association. In the last war, we had 49 Grand Lodges trying to do the work of one. In unity is strength. This time, when our boys come marching home victorious, none will look askance and say, "Where was Freemasonry in this hour of need?" Approximately 10% of the boys in the service are Freemasons. Another 15% are close kin of Freemasons. Through the association, Freemasonry is meeting the challenge of their great need. At this very moment, in foxholes and on shipboard, beneath the sea and in the air, countless hands are being clasped in fraternal recognition as brothers find one another in the darkness as well as in the daylight. And countless fathers, bravely wishing Godspeed to their departing sons, are saying, "Boy, when your hour of darkness and loneliness comes, find a Freemason and tell him you're the son of a Freemason, and you'll find a friend." And through our great association, the flower of Freemasonry is being made to bloom in the rocky soil of war's desolation. And the fruits of Freemasonry are being shared by every boy and girl who wears the uniform. There's nothing for sale in Masonic service centers. Neither mineral nor metal is the price of Freemasonry service to our boys. And yet, our centers are supported without fanfare or public appeal, because in our heart glows the great light of charity, unostentatious but sincere. Each of us giving generously because we have seen the light and heard the cry of the widow's son.
I get where I'm going, on the far side of the sky, the first thing that I'm gonna do is spread my wings and fly. I'm gonna land beside a lion and run my fingers through his mane, where I might find out what it's like to ride a drop of rain. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will shed the sins and struggles I have carried all these years, and I'll leave my heart wide open. I will love and have no fear. Yeah, get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. I'm gonna walk with my granddaddy, and he'll match me step for step, and I'll tell him how I've missed him every minute since he left. And then I'll hug his neck. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will shed the sins and struggles I have carried all these years, and I'll leave my heart wide open. I will love and have no fear. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, don't cry for me down here. So much pain and so much darkness in this world we stumble through. All these questions I can't answer, and so much work to do. But when I get where I'm going, and I see my Maker's face, I'll stand forever in the light of His amazing grace. Yeah, when I get where I'm going, there'll be only happy tears. I will love and have no fear.
Hi there, y'all. Come on in, rock a while.
As you heard in the first degree charge, we are an ancient and honorable order. Our traditions and teachings have come down to us from the centuries unimpaired. What your fathers and grandfathers were taught, so were we taught, and so will we teach those who follow. Our 200th anniversary presents us with a time to reflect and appreciate our fraternity, a time to celebrate our successes, but just as importantly, a time to plan for our future. There are men out there who could learn and benefit from our Masonic teachings. There are communities, men, women, and children who could benefit from our charity. Our duties as Freemasons are undiminished. We are what we always were and always will be. Take pride in your fraternity. Celebrate the 200th year of our Grand Lodge. But look to what you can do now and in the future to ensure that your sons and grandsons may have those same opportunities that you now enjoy.